everyone, welcome to day 4 of the Baha'i Fast live meditation series. I'm so glad to have you with us. As you can see by the title, I have decided to call this Dear Ray. Here's your 4th day of Baha'i Fast meditation. And I just want to say, I mentioned this yesterday to you, how thankful I was, but you know what? I decided that I'm going to do the rest of the days just directed at you, or to you. Because I find it much easier to speak to one person than to many people, because then there's many different things and one does not know what to say exactly. But when I'm speaking to one individual, and perhaps this individual has asked me some questions, I think a lot more is able to come out and everyone might be able to benefit in that sense. So thank you for everything, all the support you have given, all the encouragement that you've given. It's really moved me to day 4. I did not know that I was going to continue on. So every single day I wake up and I'm excited. I'm excited to feel this. So really thank you. I don't think people know how much one can influence other people with just a few words of encouragement. And that's actually going to be something that I'm going to talk about a lot today. So I shared with you that I've been recently listening to the butterfly forecast. And yesterday I was listening to the episode called The Gift. And in the episode, basically it talks about how people come into our lives and they don't know how much they have influenced and affected us. And yet it's like as if it was their existence was like a gift to you at the right place at the right time, right? So you are that person for me, Ray. And so I just really wanted to thank you there. And you shared with me some very beautiful things about qualities that I had that you admired when it comes to talking about the faith. And I wanted to share that it's never easy talking about something that you love. But then when you love so hard and you don't really quite care what other people think when you share. And yesterday, I don't know if you know, Ray, that Persians have this like little thing where they pull out like a Hafiz poem. Hafiz was known to like have memorized the Quran, and he's known to like be like future telling, or it's kind of like a tarot card. So like if somebody will have something in their mind and then they'll open like a Hafiz poem and then open it and then see what happens and basically see their fate and like a little bit of explanation of like what they're going through. So I've been doing this a lot with my dad, and since the pandemic, it's actually a recent thing that's happened. And it's been such a source of comfort. And yesterday, I pulled one out and it was so interesting. And one of the lines was something that I really thought would be helpful in terms of when we talk about anything that we love, whether it's our faith, whether it's our beliefs, whether it's our values, whether it's anything. And this is hopefully I'm getting the name right. So the Hafiz poem told me to go look at a surah in the Quran, which was Al-Qashira, and I've never heard of this. So I looked it up, and essentially it talks about heaven, hell, and creation, all of it. But at the last line, what really affected me the most was the line that said, "Oh Muhammad," I wish it's on my phone, but it says, basically, I will link it down below so that you see the exact words. But it basically says that, Muhammad, you are here to remind the people. You are not here to convert them. So whenever we talk about something that we love or that we cherish or that we value, really all we're doing is that we are reminding people. Thank God Baha'is do not proselytize. Thank God, right? We don't have that burden to carry. So when we're sharing, it really just is something out of like a sense of joy and a sense of just wanting to share something that you cherish like so deeply in your heart, right? So I think one is having this sense of deep love really helps to bring courage when you're speaking about something. That you're not sharing for the sake of receiving approval, which is actually one of the releases that we've been doing throughout these past couple days when a meditation is finished. Because the reason why I always do that release is because people always feel a sense of inferiority and they don't know whether or not they're doing the meditation right. So there's always a sense where you need to kind of protect the person from their own ego in their own whipping, and relieve themselves of wanting approval that they're doing it right, or that whatever new thing that they're embarking on, that, having a sense of control over the situation or whatever. So it's like when we're sharing about anything that we love, but particularly when it comes to faith, because there's a lot of sensitivity around the subject. But once you are sharing from a place of love, people are just in love. They are just so in love. And I wanted to share a story with you of why one of the reasons that yoga has moved me so much and very deeply into my spiritual practice. It's because for the first time with a particular group of yogis, when they were speaking about their guru, they were filled with so much love that they were lost in their love for their guru when they were speaking to me. Like, I could tell that there was a certain point in time where they just drifted off and just started thinking about them. And it was no longer about a conversation with me, but of their love for their teacher. And that really deeply, deeply moved me. Because outside of the Baha'i faith, I had not seen that. I had not witnessed that in any other faith. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. With some Christians also, they're so sincere, I can really feel this love that they have for Jesus. So, it doesn't really matter what you say, what you're saying, but it does matter how you say it and the feelings that the other person gets. I'm sure you've heard of this line before, that people don't really remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel. So I've been told several times that I speak with a lot of conviction. Sometimes even the word patronizing comes out, but in the end, it doesn't really, there's a lot of inner strength in what I feel with God. And this comes with a lot of practice, right? But it doesn't even matter what other people say anymore, because you were enamored with that love. And if you read enough Persian poetry, you know that they're all basically spiritually drunk. There's a lot of analogies, allegories about wine, about mysticism, and really I just feel like they just dance around and just, they're just in a whole different world because of their love. And that's really how we should be with our love for Baha'u'llah or the Bab. When we truly see who they are on this planet, right? And I also wanted to share with you one of the reasons why the Bicentenary Meditation Project even exists is really based on this quote. And it's so important. It moved me so much that I will link it in the comments below so that you see the exact words. Know that I'm not making it up. So this is also on my website when I talk about the Bicentenary Meditation Project. This is the first thing you see. For indeed, if thou dost open the heart of a person for his sake, the other person's sake, you're not thinking about yourself, the other person's sake, better will it be for thee than every virtuous deed, since deeds are secondary to faith in him and certitude in his reality. Bomb right there. Let me say that one more time. Since deeds are secondary to faith in him and certitude in his reality. Now, as you know, in the Baha'i world, we are really focused on serving humanity and serving other humans. What I've observed personally is where we can get really caught up in our service, or maybe stop even our service or serving other people, or we get despondent or we start getting sad, is when our faith is not strong enough and we're acting. Particularly the combination of these two. It's the action that you're taking without the faith. And it says here, the quote says it, since deeds are secondary to faith in him and certitude in his reality. This is literally why, the entire reason why I poured so much of my energy into the Bicentenary Meditation Project. 365 meditations to commemorate the bicentenary birth of the Bab. Translating it into over 22 languages. I'm still in the midst of doing it. I'm really hoping, please pray for us, Ray, that we can get it done by Nowruz. We really wanted to get it done like on the day of the bicentenary, but we received all of the meditations during that time. And we still need a couple more meditations and we're waiting for them. So we're just hoping all the stars align with that. But certitude in his reality is the entire reason why I created the Bicentenary Meditation Project, is that we really more deeply need to foster that. Because if we're centered, if we've planted like a flag in our inner lives, in God's reality, and we have certitude, we're like certain. If someone asks us a question, we're like, don't worry, I got this. I got this. Because you're also reading the writings, we're learning about things, and we're seeing how it influences our life. And then once we read something, we act on it, and then we receive the confirmations, we ask for divine assistance, we pray about it, we meditate, we see what the next step is. This is all that we can do, really. Daily, hourly, secondly. This is literally a second practice. Secondly practice for myself. So when I think about this quote, it's so powerful. I will link it down below for you to see. But there's also another quote today that I saw on one of the memories on my Facebook. This is a quote that I posted a long time ago. So this is the quote. There is but one power which heals. That is God. The state or condition through which the healing takes place is the confidence of the heart. Ooh, right? This is the theme that we're talking about right now. By some, this state is reached through pills, powder, and physicians. By others, through hygiene, fasting, and prayer. Right now we're in the fast, so this is applicable to us right now. By others, through direct perception. So with meditation, we are kind of like allowing ourselves to experience the direct perception some more. The fast allows for our prayers to get deepened, for our fasting and hygiene. Like our body is literally internally cleansed, as well as hopefully outwardly you're also like taking showers, right? And then if not those cases, like I mentioned yesterday, we would either, if we're not fasting, if we're exempt from fasting, it would be because we're on medication of some kind, right? Through pills and powders. So we're healing the body. All of it is for us to align our intentions with God even more. So the state of confidence, the state or condition through which the healing takes place is the confidence of the heart. If you believe that you can talk about things that you love and be confirmed in it, or be assisted in that process, and you're constantly shown that you're actually given process, and your eyes are looking for it all around the world, being like, God, I'm ready, just show me the way, right? It will happen. It will happen. This heart needs to be open to receiving, and faith and certitude in his reality. This is something that I realized I've really been very blessed with, being quite assisted in this area of faith, that even to have faith is a blessing from God. You know, even to have spiritual insights, or want to even go to meditation or even sit down to watch this video, that is an assistance in itself. So if we think about like all the things that we're doing in this life, we're saying a prayer. Every act of going towards the prayer is really one of those things that like God is the one who's telling us to go there, because not a leaf drops without the will of God. So when we think about it, if we really seek to become more courageous in what we share with others, ask that you be assisted and that God be with you at all times. He will not leave you. I want to say I can guarantee that, but it would really be dependent on whether or not there's a veil to refrain you from recognition. The sun shines on everyone. Mercy and bounty and grace is given to everyone. Some people just have an umbrella, and some people are under trees in the shade, but ultimately, we're all given it. It's not like something special. You're not like unique or special, or I'm not unique or special for like being able to share all these things. I still have to use courage. I still have to use faith. I still have to hone my faith. If there's any doubt that arises, I need to go back to the writings and see where the answers are, right? It's just the time it takes before a recognition happens and for you to go actually and read a quote or say a prayer, and how long that period takes is really just the practice that we're doing here. The way in meditation, our practice is really just to come back to one focus. Which, speaking of which, we will talk about today's qualities. So, today is day 4 of 19 of the Baha'i month. And 4, in terms of numerology, is usually for hard work. This is where the hard work begins, right? We're talking about hard work. We're talking about faith. We're talking about making effort. We're talking about being courageous. All of this is an act of effort. You must put your back into it. It must happen. And given the information that you shared with me about where you're living and the conditions that are around it, I will also be saying prayers for you to feel the sense of like wind underneath your wings so that you can fly, and that you can be almost like carried forward. Not that I have any special powers or prayers, but I would ask God to assist you. Because I think what you're seeking and wanting to do is so praiseworthy. There's no possibility that God will not assist you. There's no way. There's no way. Right? There's no way that you will not receive assistance. In fact, I would bet money on the opposite. Not the opposite. I will bet on if it doesn't come, I would give you money. I will not give you money if it comes, because that is where my faith is. But if it doesn't come, I would be willing. I would be willing. That's how much I know God will assist you if you take action. And just share the beautiful things that you shared with me. Share with other people. You never know how other people will react, how other people will feel. Did you ever think a person so far away is going to suddenly dedicate the Baha'i Fast live meditation series to you? Probably not. I didn't even know that. This is like a mystery, right? It's so great, but that's how much effect one action, one email of yours was on someone else. Now there's going to be 19 videos for the whole world to see. So that's really powerful. And the reason why I'm talking to Ray like this is actually for other people to also see for yourself how powerful your actions can be and how much they actually impact the world. Do not always be attached to seeing it immediately. In this circumstance, I think Ray is reflected back immediate, yes! Yes, what I said worked. That act of courage really was the right direction to go. But sometimes we don't see it, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. Sometimes we just have to be detached of the result. One thing in yoga that I learned in my teacher training was that there are 3 types of students. The first type of student walks around life clueless, mindless, doesn't know what they're doing, and they need to practice the 8 limbs of yoga. They need to practice like virtues with the outside world, virtues with themselves. They need to do physical postures. They need to do breath practices. They need to do withdrawal of the senses practices, concentration practices, single pointed focus practices. Sorry, that's already 7. So removal of the senses and single focus, and then this is where you reach enlightenment. These are the 7. Then it would be, I actually got it right the first time. Withdrawal of the senses, concentration, single pointed focus, and then we have enlightenment. These are the 8 steps, right? This is the 3rd level of student, which is the majority of where we all are. This is what my practice is teaching other people, like physical practices in yoga. Like, we might not be completely clueless, right, of what we're doing. Like, we know we're out there seeking for answers. The 2nd level of student is those who only practice 3 things. 1, self-inquiry, asking questions to themselves. 2, surrender, surrendering their actions. 3, what was it? Self-study, surrender. Oh, goodness. This was so good. And purification, I think, was one of them. I'll try to remember and write it down below. But these 3 are basically practices once you've reached a certain stage, or some people, all they need to do in this life is walk through life through these 3 lenses. Is that they need to self-discover, reflect on themselves. They need to surrender that. Oh, and worship God, I think. 3 of them. I thought surrendering and worshiping God were different things. But these 3 things they just need to do over and over again to reach enlightenment, that same enlightenment. Because all of the paths point to enlightenment, right? And the 1st level of student is one who just acts and releases their actions. And if we think about it, this is what the House of Justice is really asking us to do. To just serve. Whereas in yoga, like the 1st level of student is one who is already enlightened, essentially. So it's like someone who is already enlightened in the world, what do they do? How do they live amongst the peoples? And the way they live is by doing selfless service and then forgetting the fruits of those service. That's it. Act, forget. Act, forget. Act, forget. Now, the beautiful thing about the Universal House of Justice doesn't require us to prerequisitely have enlightenment in order to do these actions. In order to act and let go of the fruits of our actions. Act and let go of the fruits of our actions. To be attached to the fruits of our services. So this is where we want to strive to be like the 1st level of student. That we want to pretend like, how would we act or move about in the world if we were already in a state of enlightenment, or we were already there? Like, if we already got it, or if we already like whatever that was that you were seeking inside, you got it, what would you end up doing for the rest of your life, right? And that would just be acting and forgetting the fruits of your actions. Really, it's that simple. So moving on. Okay, so the weekday of today is Istijlál, Majesty, the quality of majesty. And of course, the month is Allah, Loftiness. So grandeur, the meaning of grandeur is the quality of being magnificent or splendid or grand. And the quality of elevation of mind, exaltation or character or ideas or conduct. The qualities of being magnificent or splendid or grand. The qualities of elevation of mind and exaltation of character or ideas or conduct. So character, ideas, and conduct are exalted. That's what grandeur means. That's the day of the week today. And majesty, the weekday, it was very interesting that I didn't know that this was a definition, was impressiveness in scale or proportion. So That's the same definition that Loftiness gave us on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. We've mentioned them all. Loftiness, which is the theme of the month. But Istijlál, Majesty, is also the same sort of definition. Impressiveness in scale or proportion. So we just want to be double times impressive today. Double times impressive in the scale and proportion of it. So let's just dive deep into our impressiveness and see where we get for our meditation. So sitting upright in a comfortable posture. I would definitely recommend sitting on a chair with your back up against a chair and with some pillows behind your back. I think this will be a really easeful practice of sitting. And so perhaps sitting also against the wall is something that you could do, and put like a pillow behind, because I don't know about you and where you are. Actually, I do know where you are now. But against the wall where I am, it's so cold that it would require a pillow or a surface of some kind to keep it on the back, because you want to be comfortable in whatever meditation posture you're in, right? Okay, so lifting ourselves up, spine straight, hands up or down, eyes closed. Let's begin focusing on the breath. And this adornment that I'm wearing today is actually a perfect place where you can place your attention. Sometimes I leave this in there just to, I don't actually have a piercing, but I just leave it in there as a center of focus where I can focus on my breath. This is a great place to focus on your breath. So use this as a guide of where you can place your attention for your breath. So focusing on our inhales and our exhales, really drawing our attention from the outside world back into the inside world. Kind of almost see the outline of blackness with our eyes closed within the body, like go in the boundaries of that blackness. And actually observe to see how far or how near you sense that boundary, or whether or not there is even one. So focusing on the quality of the day, which is ʻAẓamat, grandeur. On the physical body, reflecting on the quality of being magnificent or splendid or grand. What does that mean on a physical level? On an object, if you were to see an object that's grand in the visible world, which is what the physical world is, the gross anatomy, right? It could be the body, it could be things, it could be buildings outside, whatever. What is the spiritual quality of grandeur? How would you see it? What would you hear? What would you touch, feel? What would you taste? What would you smell with the spiritual quality of grandeur? Moving on an energetic level. What does the quality of being magnificent or splendid or grand, the quality of elevation of mind, elevation of character, ideas, or conduct, what does that look like within the energy? What would the energy look like if you were to talk about your faith and your belief to someone else, having the quality, spiritual quality of grandeur seated in your soul as you speak? Like, what would that look like energetically? Like, what would the other person feel with this spiritual quality within your body as you speak to others? And then moving on to the mind and the emotions. What does it mean to have grandeur, ʻAẓamat, grandeur, with your emotions, with your mind? The quality of elevation, of mind, of character or ideas or conduct. What would that look like? And then if grandeur were outside of you, what would you witness? What would you become aware of? And in your work, how would you be practicing? What would grandeur look like in your work? How would it manifest itself in your interactions with other people, within yourself, within the workspace? What would the workspace look like if it was grand or filled with grandeur? So let's move on to the quality of Istijlál, majesty. Majesty is, the definition is impressiveness in scale or proportion. And so if we were to think about impressiveness in scale and proportion in the physical world, whether that be the body or objects, buildings, things, what would you see as majesty? What would you hear as majestic? What would you taste as majestic? And what would you touch that would be majestic? That would be filled with the spiritual virtue of majesty. And what would you taste as the quality of majesty? So I don't want to get you to focus too much on the taste as we're fasting, right? We're abstaining from taste, really, this Baha'i fast. So moving on to the energy of majesty. What would an energy of majesty look like? And if we read like the history of the faith, so many people, we have this amazing example that Baha'u'llah was so majestic. So even visualizing to see what would it feel like to receive the majesty of Baha'u'llah. Like there were so many words that were described before of how people felt in the presence of Baha'u'llah. Of being in the presence of majesty. And in the mind and emotions, what would majestic emotions and mental states be? So when we think about our mind, when we're in acts of service, a majestic mind would be what? What would that look like? How would majesty be present in your interactions, in your thought when you're having interactions with other people and talking about your faith and what you love? And in your emotions, like what would majesty feel like? And in your workspace, what would purpose that is majestic look like? Like, I think people have the tendency of thinking really big, of course, like impressiveness and scale or proportion, right? But I think about like even those small jobs that we tend not to respect as much. Let's say, for instance, like people may look down upon farmers, others might revere them, right? Or garbage pickup trucks. So let's imagine if a garbage pickup truck or someone who was picking up garbage was impressive in scale and proportion. They had majesty exercised as a practice in their work, in their purpose. So it doesn't really necessarily mean that the job title has to be grand, you know. My cultural versions of those would be being a physician, being a lawyer, being an engineer. Like, these are majestic, what typically people think is majestic. But in a workspace, is it really the title that is majestic, or is it the way in which we worship God in the acts of our service? That's really the quality of majesty there, rather than the outward form. So really thinking about those subtleties of majesty and how that would be within the workspace. All right. So we can bring our palms together and start rubbing it really hard to generate some heat. And you can cover your eyes gently, cup your eyes, and gently blink your eyes in the cup palm of your hands to adjust to the light if you had your eyes closed throughout the whole time. And then gently bring it down. I hope you have a wonderful day of the fast, Ray. And with everyone else, this is really... conversations between me and Ray are really, it's actually for everyone. So the way I see it is that we're in like a room and Ray has come up to ask a question. And when someone is asking a question and we're all in a room, we usually pay attention and listen to the question and the conversation that is going on, because that is going to help clarify what is happening here, right? So, if you have any questions, you're welcome to absolutely ask. This is where it becomes more tangible for me to share things when I've first been asked a question. Then I'm like, okay, you want to know about this? I'll tell you this. Or else then I'm just going to be talking about all the things that I love, which is fine too. But if I were to actually answer people's questions and help other people's understanding in some shape or form in any way that I can, I would absolutely love to be of service in that way. So feel free to ask in the comments below anything that came up, like, I don't understand what this means, or why you did this this way. So yeah, definitely do share. And if you wanted to share privately also to me, by email, you are also welcome to. It is yogi, Y-O-G-I, avec moi, A-V-E-C-M-O-I, @gmail.com. If you're on YouTube, it is below the comments below. Definitely, wherever you're watching this on, check out the comments section of this video and read it so that you can see sometimes like the things that I talk about. I'm going to leave like a link or at least information below. So, you can actually visually read it and listen to me talk about it at the same time, because it's going to help the learning. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a wonderful day 4 of the Baha'i fast. I will see you tomorrow.